Metro flange. As you can see on these points here, it would have had little metal shafts sticking out that take the centre of the wheel. These have been ground down and then filed flat so that the surface is nice and flat, as you can see. It's a standard mini hub. Going to be drilled out to 10.5mm. We have the standard hub, and it's been drilled out here. Mark's just going to deburr the edge just to give us a nice flat mating surface so that there's no overspill from the drilling. You can see the standard mini disc hub and the caliper bracket that comes with the Mark II Fiesta calipers. And as Mark puts it up against, you can see that here it's binding and stopping these holes from lining up. If we look down there, as you can see, so by removing the material here, allow us to push this back and the holes line up from there. Here's the caliper bracket, and there's a very small amount of material being ground off the surface there. That just gives us our clearance when it's offered up. What we're going to do now is mount them in a vise, as you can see here, and we're going to give them a good wire brushing to get any of the loose rust off. Wire brush attached to a drill, clean them all up, and then we're going to paint them all black. It's important when you're painting them, any of these surfaces where bolts are going to be attached, shown here, and where the steering arm is going to be attached, are left unpainted so that you get a good fit with the components. It's 320mm hoses. These have been made up from the Air-Equip fittings.
Fully machined and faced off Metro dry flange, and our turned down disc to 7.9 inches. So simple case, make sure it's a good smooth fit. It doesn't rock around, because you could have, sometimes there's excessive corrosion. So just make sure your flange is a nice good smooth fit, and we're just using the standard Metro bolts which actually come with your flange, and we're just going to put a dab of Loctite just on the threads, just to make sure they're not going to come undone. Run down the bolts to start off with. Now there is a torque setting of 42 pounds-foot, but beforehand you'll not hold them in your hand. You just want to make sure before you put the disc, being a new disc, you need to cover the surfaces of the vise just to make sure we don't actually put any marks in there. It's just doesn't going to be really tight, just enough to hold it. So take a torque wrench, and these will be torqued down. Torque wrench is set to 42 pound, and just torque off as follows, doing it in the opposite direction to each other to make sure it goes down level. The refurbished steering arm, it goes on correctly. This side where the brake mounting is, that's where the caliper will go, and this is the correct steering arm for this hub, that's all. So we just make sure, just offer it up, and we'll just tap it down into position. Torque them off again. Same poundage as the disc to hub bolts, 42 pound again. As so. There you go. Once we've actually torqued the bolts down now, we need to put the locking tabs, just knock them back up. If these are damaged on removal when you've been refurbishing your hubs, it's advisable to buy new ones, but these are still in a usable condition, so we'll just knock these up as follows.
Locking tabs are now knocked up, and like that.
We've actually got our outer CVs in hand at the moment, so before we actually fit them to the bearings, we just want to make sure that the face where the hub will run in the back seal, it's just a slight coating of grease, just to help it seal and not to damage the seal when you're fitting it and when you first start using it. And just give everything a good light coating just to aid assembly, as follows. And just be gentle when you're actually putting it in, and just feel for everything to fit as follows, and it should be a nice smooth fit like that. The stub into the hub now, again they're the same. The front seal will actually run and sit on the inside of the drive flange. Again, just a light coating of grease just to aid assembly and to make sure we're not going to damage the seal when this all starts rotating. Right, also now we've got grease on both parts. We just gently put it all together, and that'll all come together as follows. And just for this at the moment, because it's not actually fitted to the vehicle, we're just going to put the outer nut to hold everything together, and just to make sure the bearings are all together, just hand tight for the moment. The outer caliper carrier. Now, because we're using Mark II calipers in this conversion, we found we actually need to use a very, very small, just a standard 10mm good quality washer, just to go between the caliper mounting bracket and the mini hub. And we're using high tensile M10 by 30mm long bolts. These actually have an Allen cap head, and these are best quality bolts, which should always be fitted really, and especially when doing anything to do with brakes. And just tighten up. We're also using a spring wash as well for the lock-in, to make sure the bolts don't come undone. And because these are actual Ford part, the recommended torque for these is 45 pounds-foot, which I shall now do with the torque wrench. Rightio, just before now we're actually ready to fit the calipers and pads now to the assembled hubs, but because these are new discs, they come with an anti-rust coating on them, which is also a lubricant, which with brakes is the last thing we want. We need to make sure that the disc surfaces are absolutely spotless and clear of any oils or contamination. So beforehand, we're using a tin of brake cleaner, so to make sure all the surface, just liberal coating of brake cleaner, and just a dry rag or paper towel, and just basically go around them and make sure that there's no grease, no oils, no nothing left on here. Torque wrench is set to the Ford setting because we're using a Ford hub carrier. That's £45. Actually, outer pad, no clip on that one. That should just sit nicely in the carrier, as so. And this is your caliper now. Insert the pad this time, one with a clip. That just clips in as follows. That sits in there. Right, Joe. Now then, offering this up now. Again, make sure the pad sits in the carrier. And there's the two slider bolts. For this, you'll need either a 7mm Allen key, or as I'm using, an Allen key driver. It's a 7mm now. It's readily available from most motorist shops. These are actually just nipped up. There's no torque setting for them as such. Just nipped up hand tight. Because there's an actual no clamping force with them. It's just to make sure. This is what the actual, as the pads wear, they should just slide nicely on there. Last thing to fit with these calipers is just the caliper retaining spring. This just basically keeps the caliper and the pads square to the disc. Right.
There we go, we show it fitted. This is with our mock wheel. As you can see, there's a nice bit of clearance all the way around.